Warlocks are the masters of the shadow flame and summoning demonic creatures from the twisting nether. Warlocks are spellcasters who have gone down the dark path, using evil magic to drain their enemies of life and to corrupt and wither away those who would stand against them without mercy. In WoW, Warlocks have always been the desired class for the utility they bring to the group in the form of wipe prevention, health stones, and demonic buffs. While other spellcasters are mana hungry, Warlocks have life tap, allowing them essentially infinite mana as long as they have heals either through their Affliction spells or an allied healer. They are also known for their high damage, being a top tier DPS through multiple expansions. However, Warlocks change a lot in Wrath of the Lich King. All three talent specializations received many changes which change the roles they play in Wrath, which may surprise you. Those three talent specializations are Affliction, which focuses on improving your damage over time spells and curses, as well as improving your own survivability through self-healing. You cast all your dots on an enemy, fear them, and then go find the next enemy to put dots on. Instead of burst damage, Affliction Warlocks choose to kill their enemies slowly, but consistently. However, in Wrath, Affliction is no longer just a utility spec in PvE, but is now one of the best PvE specs for Warlocks to go for damage. At the same time, they still bring utility to the raid though too. Affliction also has powerful new PvP talents that are quite strong. Demonology, on the other hand, focuses mainly on improving your summon demons, but now in Wrath also has some damage boosting talents for some of your destruction spells, surprisingly enough. Demonology historically wasn't really that great for anything for a very long time. Most Warlocks only went into the Demonology tree for either Soul Link or Demonic Sacrifice for PvP or PvE respectively. Going full Demonology was mediocre at best, but could be used for leveling just fine, but in Wrath of the Lich King it received a lot of powerful buffs that secure a Demonology Warlock a full raid spot. Destruction mainly improves your destruction spells like Shadow Bolt, Incinerate, Conflagrate, and all other sorts of shadowy, burny spells you throw at people. Destruction is where the burst is. Destruction Warlocks in Wrath of the Lich King are notorious for getting massive crits and simply deleting their enemies in mere seconds. The spec traditionally was only used for PvE since vanilla all the way through TBC, but the spec has had some changes now and has new survivability-based talents, gearing it more towards a PvP spec in Wrath of the Lich King. Some of the new talents that Affliction Warlocks got in Wrath of the Lich King are a ton of new damage increasing talents. One of them, improved Corruption, which has been completely reworked. Corruption is now instant cast baseline, and the talent now increases corruption damage done by 10% and increases Seed of Corruption critical strike chance by 5%. Seed of Corruption is still an incredible AoE ability in Wrath, so this talent is a nice addition. Another Affliction talent is improved Drain Soul, which was buffed to decrease threat by 20% instead of 10% with your Affliction spells, which is definitely going to be needed considering how buffed Affliction as a spec has become in Wrath of the Lich King. Amplify Curse has been completely reworked as well, thank God. I don't know about you, but I always found this spell to be a hassle, and I just macroed it into my rotation with my curses. In Wrath, it just reduces the global cooldown of your curses by half a second passively. This can be really nice actually, since when there are multiple targets, you are furiously spamming your curses trying to get them all up on all targets. This is great for PvE when you're just trying to get your cursive elements on the targets, or even in PvP trying to get cursive tongues on all your enemy spellcasters. Now another powerful new PvP talent in the Affliction tree is improved Fear. This causes your fear to give a movement slow effect when it ends called Nightmare. It's a 30% move speed slow which lasts for 5 seconds, which can be very helpful to keep distance from your enemies after you've feared them. Shadow Embrace has been completely reworked as well. Instead of a 5% physical damage reduction, it is now caused by your Shadow Bolt and Haunt spells, and is now a stackable mortal strike effect, reducing periodic healing done by up to 30% when stacked 3 times. It is also a periodic shadow damage increase buff by up to 15% when stacked 3 times. Very, very much improved. Siphon Life has also been completely reworked for better or worse. The days of seeing Siphon Life as a spell are over. It's now a passive talent, which grants healing on 40% of the damage done by corruption. Also grants 5% increased damage to corruption, Seed of Corruption, and Unstable Affliction. One less spell in your rotation isn't bad. Besides, Siphon Life was actually very weak in PvE anyways, and wasn't even used if you were trying to parse well as Affliction in TBC. Eradication is a new Affliction talent as well, which gives your corruption a 6% chance to increase your cast speed by 20% for 10 seconds. This can be very nice for increasing the rate at which channeled spells like Drain Life deal damage, or for spamming your dots. Another powerful Affliction talent is Death's Embrace, which will give Affliction Warlocks an execute-like effect, granting 12% increased damage done when your target is at or below 35% health, and also increases the amount of life drained from Drain Life by 30% when you are at or below 20% health. Now this is a very strong PvP talent as well. As you can imagine, if you are low, getting that increased 30% life drained when using Drain Life is a nice panic button you can push when you're about to die, and definitely makes Drain Life a more useful ability. Pandemic, of course, is a new Affliction talent which grants your Corruption and Unstable Affliction the ability to crit or 100% increased damage, and increases the critical strike damage bonus of Haunt by 100%. Now this is a powerhouse talent, of course. Having those abilities crit is very strong, and increasing the critical strike damage bonus of Haunt by 100% is very strong as well. Now, Everlasting Affliction grants your Drain Life, Drain Soul, Shadow Bolt, and Haunt spells, so most of your rotation there, to reset the duration of corruption on the target, which is a really nice quality of life change. The talent also grants 5% additional bonus spell damage to corruption and Unstable Affliction, but Everlasting Affliction, I feel, is very, very useful in order to not have to refresh your corruption, saves you a spell. Now, a really big talent that changed Affliction Warlocks and really gave them the utility that they have in Wrath is Improved Fell Hunter. This grants your Fell Hunter 8% mana back when it uses Shadow Bite, which is a new ability, and increases the effect of your Fell Hunter's Fell Intelligence by 10%. Now, Fell Intelligence is a new raid-wide buff, which grants Intellect increase by 48 and Spirit by 64. This stacks with Priest and Mage buffs, and is another reason to bring an Affliction Warlock to the raid. Now, the last new Affliction talent, which is at the bottom of the tree, is a spell called Haunt. This is a new dot dealing shadow damage and increasing the damage done by your shadow damage over time effects by 20% for 12 seconds. So, as you can guess, you want this on any target that has dots. When the effect ends, you get healed for 100% of the damage done to the target. This has an 8-second cooldown, and as an Affliction Warlock, you're going to want this up all the time for that amazing 20% increased dot damage buff. Of course, the heal is very nice as well, so you can time your life taps for right before Haunt is about to finish, or right before your enemy is about to die. Now, moving away from Affliction talents, let's talk a little bit about some of the new Demonology talents. Now, the Demonology tree got a lot of buffs in Wrath of the Lich King. It now has some more Destro-like talents, increasing your spell's damage, and new demon buffing talents that fill gaps from TBC, like keeping your pet alive without health funnel, and also adding more spells to use on your demon. Now, one of the first talents at the top of the tree is Fell Synergy. This grants you a 100% chance to heal your pet for 15% of the amount of spell damage done by you. This is a huge talent for keeping your pet alive. You'd have to get a bunch of set bonuses in TBC in order to get something like this. Things like Demonic Resilience was also very nice to keep your pet alive, but you were always using Health Funnel in order to heal your pet in TBC. Well, Improved Health Funnel was also reworked to grant a 30% less damage taken buff for your pet while it is being channeled as a sort of panic button for your pet now. So lots of ways to keep your pet alive in Wrath of the Lich King. Molten Core is a new It's a new talent in the Demonology tree. It increases Immolate's duration, and it's a proc effect off your Corruption, which increases Incinerate damage and reduced cast time, and increases Soulfire damage and crit chance. This is a nice buff for Demonology to improve your destruction spell. Demonic Empowerment is a huge new addition for Demonology. This spell replaces Demonic Sacrifice and instead empowers your demon with a special effect depending on which demon you have out. The Imp will get 20% increased critical strike chance for 30 seconds. Voidwalker will get 20% more health and threat generation for 20 seconds. Succubus gets an instant cast Vanish ability, which removes all stuns, snares, and etc. and goes into an improved invisibility. Fell Hunter gets all magic effects removed. And best of all, Felguard gets Bestial Wrath. Just kidding, but not really. This increases attack speed by 20%, breaks all stuns, snares, and movement impairing effects, and makes the Felguard immune to them for 15 seconds. Beastmaster Warlock reporting for duty. Now, another Destro-like talent is Decimation. When you cast Shadowbolt, Incinerate, or Soulfire on a target that is at or below 35% health, the cast time of Soulfire is reduced by 40% for 10 seconds and costs no Soul Shard. So, Soulfire takes 6 seconds to cast, so with that 40% reduced cast time, you should be able to get 2 casts off and a third one started, all from a single Decimation proc. This is a very nice execution effect talent. Demonic Pact is a new raid-wide buff, which increases spell damage by 10% of your spell damage for 45 seconds after your pet deals a critical strike with a 20-second cooldown. This is the buff that secures the Demonology Warlock a raid spot because it's at the bottom of the Demonology tree, so a full Demonology Warlock will have to bring it, and you really will only need one because it's raid wide. Now, the last big talent for Demonology is Metamorphosis. This is an insanely cool new ability which transforms the Warlock into a demon for 30 seconds. This increases the Warlock's armor by 600%, damage by 20%, and reduces your chance to be crit, and reduces snares and stuns by 50%. You also get 4 new demonic abilities. Shadow Cleave, which make your next melee attack deal shadow damage to up to 3 targets on a 6-second cooldown. Challenging Howl, which taunts all enemies within 10 yards for 6 seconds on a 15-second cooldown. Demonic Charge. This is essentially a warrior intercept, stunning an enemy for 3 seconds. And last but not least, Immolation Aura, dealing 500 fire damage to all nearby enemies every second for 15 seconds on a 30-second cooldown. Now, as you can tell from these new abilities, you basically become like a tank with taunt and the armor, but also really good at AoE farming. Shadow Cleave combined with Immolation Aura are both very powerful AoE abilities. Now, when it comes to using this in PvP, you have to be a bit careful because you will become a demon, and paladins can use Turn Evil on you, as well as Exorcism to get that automatic crit, as well as being banished by other warlocks. Now, when it comes to new destruction talents, we have Molten Skin. Again, we're going to see some new PvP-oriented survivability talents in the destruction tree. Molten Skin will reduce all damage taken by 6%. There's also a nice PvE talent here. Improved Soul Leech restores mana to you and your summoned demon equal to 2% of max mana, and 10 party or raid members mana regen equal to 1% of max mana every 5 seconds for 15 seconds. It's a nice little raid-wide mana buff. Now, Backdraft, if this sounds familiar, is a new powerful Destro talent, making your Conflagrate reduce the cast time and global cooldown of your next 3 destruction spells by 30% for 15 seconds. This makes Conflagrate a must in a Destro rotation in order to get that reduced cast speed. It's also very powerful and notorious for destruction warlocks being very powerful. Now, Improved Imp is another talent that is actually pretty interesting. Grants a 30% increased damage done by your imp, but also grants your imp's crits a 100% chance to make your next spell a crit. This is clearly a PvE talent because your imp will not survive out in the cruel, cold PvP world. There's also Fire and Brimstone, which increases damage done by Incinerate and Chaos Bolt when the target has Immolate, and a flat 20 25% increased critical strike chance for Conflagrate. Very nice. And the big new spell at the bottom of the destruction tree is Chaos Bolt, dealing a ton of fire damage, and it can't be resisted and pierces through all absorption effects. That's pretty chaotic. Now, besides new talents, Warlocks have also gotten some new baseline spells that are very powerful. One of them is Demonic Circle. You basically place down a demonic circle where you're standing, and you can instantly teleport back to that location whenever you want. It's actually really powerful in PvP for escaping death, peeling enemies off yourself, and even chasing down enemies if they go near your portal. It's also a lot of just fun too. Jumping to your certain death, but teleporting back instead of dying is hilarious. It also has a 40-yard range though, so don't wait too long before you teleport back. Shadow Flame is another new baseline spell for all Warlocks, which reminds me of Mage's Dragon Breath spell. Basically, it's the same exact thing, but it is just shadow damage without any daze effect. Warlocks were really missing a short-range instant cast burst spell, and this is a nice little addition for them. Now, when it comes to PvP teams, there are a lot of similarities to TBC, but Warlocks don't only run SL in Wrath. Destruction is very strong, along with Affliction. For 2v2, Rogue Warlock is strong, Warlock Druid with the standard hots and dots, but you could also replace the Druid for another healer. For 3v3, the infamous RLS is in Wrath. Rogue Lock Shaman is very strong, or replacing the Shaman with a Druid for RLD. There's lots of strong comps to choose with as a Warlock in Wrath of the Lich King. Overall, Warlocks are a great pick for Wrath of Lich King for their ability to top the damage meters in PvE and also achieve the highest ranks in PvP. If you're looking for a class fantasy that revolves around darkness, corruption, flame and shadow, Warlocks are second to none for capturing the fantasy of the spellcaster who has gone down a dark path.